everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Talk Louder podcast. Please hit that subscribe button on the YouTube channel. Leave us your comments and likes. You can also leave comments and likes on the Facebook page and follow us on iTunes and Spotify. I am Metal Dave Glessner along with my co-host Jason McMaster. And today we're going to talk about some random memories that each of us have of time we've spent with some of our favorite musicians or guys in bands, girls in bands, whatever. Just memories that we have of hanging out a little bit. And we'll share all that in just a little while. But first, let's hear from Jason. What you got going on this week, Jason?
I don't know. Just wanted to ask you, you ready to drop a bunch of names? I am. I got, you know me, I got a bunch of names to drop.
Yeah.
I am doing good. I am super excited about this podcast all the way around. I am not one to read comments, but some people I know and some people I don't know personally, which is always with commentaries, I'm reading them and they're sending messages out and they're saying they like my background and they're saying that my leather face. Somebody named Jason Leonard commented. I don't know if you saw that. He said he likes my leather face. It's limited edition, just so you know, Jason Leonard.
Wow.
It's limited edition. It's got the blood splatter on it. That means it's worth like $22 instead of $15.99. Anyway, so that's cool. No, just more of the same, more writing, thinking, got my first shot, thinking about possibilities of getting Broken Teeth into a rehearsal room. I know Igniter is about to do that probably end of this month. And so, yeah, lights at the end of the tunnel. I think, every time we turn around, there's a freaking holiday that someone's going to have, 30 people in their living room and their house is smaller than mine and my house is not large. And I think that you can, people are forgetful that you can still carry and contract and spread COVID, even if you've been shot 20 times by the vax. So.
Yeah, I got my second shot, so I'm looking forward to getting out a little more.
But you still gotta, you still gotta wear your mask, Dave.
Yeah.
You gotta 6 feet apart,
Yeah, right.
Still gotta say, hey, get the hell away from me.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Well, much like you, I'm also enjoying the podcast. I do follow the comments. I kind of oversee the Facebook page, and I look at YouTube and check out the comments. And I've been really happy with the response we're getting. We've got some people that are regulars as far as commenting and all that stuff. And they're sending in some requests and sharing their memories with us. And I see people are buying T-shirts. We love all that. So thank you to all of you that are doing that. And please continue to share the episodes with your friends and family and whoever else.
I think the director of this Bloody and Bruised Untold Story of the Back Room, the movie thing that's a documentary about our beloved sacred holy ground that was the club, our mid-sized rock club here in Austin in the 80s. It's going to be cool. It's scheduled. I saw that it's scheduled for 2023.
Yeah.
That's a long ways away. But anyway, the teaser is out. And what I'm getting at is the director of the film ordered Talk Louder swag.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, 3 shouts for Boudreaux.
Yeah, he's worthy. So, that's cool.
Yeah, that's great. That documentary is going to be fun. It is coming out in 2023, the early part of 2023, and I think they're anticipating a lot of post-production, and I think they're trying to time the release to coincide with the film festival season. So I guess it's safe to say they would miss it in 2022. That means the first opportunity would be 2023 to make that kind of splash. And if that's what it takes to get it in front of, that kind of audience, then more power to them. I've seen the trailer. They interviewed me and you and a bunch of other people that were in the scene, and they're doing quality work. The camera work is great, the audio looks good, and all the editing on the trailer looked great. So, yeah, something to look forward to in 2023, and I'm sure they'll be teasing out little bits between now and then. So they do have a Facebook page you can follow. It's called Bloody and Bruised. Bloody and Bruised: The Untold Story of the Back Room. Check it out on Facebook.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like it, the still shots and the video clips and things like that are archival footage is like, we know who's behind the camera. It's Dave Pruitt, we know all the photographers' names. So it's like, oh, I know that shot. I know who took that. I know what year that is. It's like a family album.
Right.
For family photo album. Right.
For us, it brings back a lot of memories. And for the audience that isn't aware of the back room or wasn't maybe part of that scene, they're in for a real treat. I would enjoy this film if I wasn't so closely associated with the back room. If this was a club in Seattle that I had nothing to do with and somebody put together a quality documentary, I would be all over it. So
yeah, there's a club in Seattle. I think it's called the Off Ramp, that's famous for all of the Seattle scene playing. I'm sure there's even more famous clubs in the Seattle scene or whatever, but they're all it's probably documented in some kind of Seattle grunge documentary movie. It probably is, but Broken Teeth, we played the Off Ramp, and I know it to be this infamous club for the obvious reasons. And I think I got the name right. Anyway, every big music scene has got a back room or an off ramp, or has a medium-sized pub-sized bar with, maybe they have a bigger room for road shows or whatever. But yeah,
it's
gonna be cool.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that. And I'm glad to hear that Boudreaux is supporting the podcast and bought some swag. So thank you, Boudreaux. Let's get into our main topic for today. Today, we are talking about random memories that Jason and I have of spending time with some names you might know, recognize, whatever. We kind of hate to use the word rock star, but let's face it, that's what some of these people are. So memories that each of us have, stories to share, memories that we'll hold dear and keep with us. Some of them are funny, some of them are just interesting things that happened somewhere along the way. So Jason, I'll start with you.
Okay, which one would you like to hear?
I don't know. Your list is probably pretty extensive. I do recall you mentioning at one point the name Duff McKagan. So do you have something with Duff you can share with us?
Yeah, I didn't really have any personal friendship or acquaintance type of meeting with Duff. Like, I saw Guns N' Roses a few times before, I was actually, I was not worthy, I guess. I guess I hadn't reached the top of the mountain that you have to climb in order to be standing in front of Duff, to where he's speaking to you like you're a peer kind of thing. Until I was actually dating a seamstress who was friends with his first wife, I believe. But anyway, great people, everyone involved. It was Thanksgiving, and I was informed by my significant other at the time that we were going to Duff's house to hang out and just have some kind of Thanksgiving get together, and that it was just going to be the four of us. And yeah, and he was renting a house I think in Laurel Canyon. And turns out I think I had been to that house before, or dropped somebody off there before, because I've heard of other people living in the same house. I think a guy that used to actually drum tech for LA Guns, and then eventually Matt Sorum in the Cult, and then when he joined Guns N' Roses, I think he actually lived there for a while. It's the same house. And anyway, that's not important. It's just a sidebar. But so we get in the house. I meet his dog Chester, and this is when Duff was drinking. Of course, this would have been in like 88, 89, 88, I think.
Yeah.
And he starts singing "My Buddy," to Chester. I'm going, oh, yeah, he's had a few already. He's happy. He's good. He's in a good place.
Yeah.
So I get in there, and the ladies, disappear to wherever the wine was. That's an easy way to say it. Probably in the kitchen. And then I'm just looking around at all of the I had spent a little time in Hollywood and California and stuff like that, but more on the underground side of it. I had been there the year before, a couple years before, hanging out with like Gene Hoagland. I could probably name drop Gene a bunch during this episode as well, since we're kind of talking about, brushing elbows with badasses, right?
Yeah. There's the episode title.
Yeah, well, that whatever works. I like name droppers just because it's fierce. But anyway, so I'm blown away at all of what I'm getting at is when you walk into a studio, there's gold and platinum sales awards and shit like that all over the place. So you don't know where to look. You're looking up, you're looking down. Someone's talking to you, and you're in Disneyland holding Mickey's hand. You don't care about anything but holding Mickey's hand, right? So I'm looking around, and he's like, "Oh yeah, don't pay any attention to those. My wife wants me to hang those everywhere, and she's doing all the decorating and blah blah blah." And I'm like, dude, no, this is rad, and I'm gonna soak all this up. And this is before cell phones, so I would have been like taking video or so. Well, you know what? You know me, I'm not really like that.
Yeah.
So I probably wouldn't have done that. I'm not a selfie kind of a person. So anyway, so I'm just running around basically in the hallway in the living room looking at all this stuff that he was being humble about, which is really awesome. And he's watching football, and I'm just hanging out, telling him how much I don't really give a shit about sports. Because I don't, and I still don't.
He's a sports fan.
He's a sports fan. I find that most headbangers and people in rock and roll and they like sports.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just this weird nerd that, I'd rather, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd rather go draw a picture or build something or write a song or something like that than watch sports. I don't know. Anyway, so he was really great. And, we were over there for a few hours, what would maybe resemble half a day. And he was great. But by the end of it, he was drinking the whole time.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool. And there's not really a whole lot to tell about that. I had talked to him on the phone a couple times. He had actually called me and invited me over, without the significant others. It just would have been me and him. Again, he says, "Come over and watch football with me." And I was like, dude, I have a photo. I had to work. I had a photo shoot. I literally had a photo shoot that day. It wasn't like shit I made up to tell a famous rock star, well, dude, you don't have a photo shoot. You're done. I've got to go do a photo shoot. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And then another time he was interested in having me sing on the Loaded demos. And I think he ended up getting Sebastian to sing on the Loaded demos.
Oh, wow.
And then ultimately he ended up being the singer in Loaded, which
right.
glad that worked out, because it's kind of the Zakk Wylde story, or the John Sykes Blue Murder thing. You know, he sang on all his demos, and he was going, yeah, you know, of course we're going to get a singer, and the label dude is like, are you freaking kidding me? This is awesome. If you don't sing on it, we're not putting it out. Oh, okay. Well, I guess I could do that. Shit, I better practice, you know, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But Duff was really down to earth, and just, he's all about the music and just people, and not full of himself at all.
Yeah.
And you know, those I cherish that time and those phone calls. By 92, I was found myself backstage Use Your Illusion tour when Brian May was opening for Guns, and
I was there.
Yeah, of course he was like, hey dude, you know, like, you know, he didn't forget who I was, you know. And he was like, it wasn't like it was more like me going, hey, remember I was the dude at your house, and you know, my buddy, and, you know, how's Chester doing, and you know, that kind of shit. It was more like me going, you know, like, you know, party on, Wayne, you know, I'm not worthy, kind of a scene from Wayne's World, you know. So that was cool. And he told me a dirty joke in front of a bunch of other people that the joke was completely inappropriate. And that was when Axl had the wombat, the baby wombat, the story that I've told you about Axl. Maybe I should finish that and then let you have a chance. So I still haven't officially met Axl, but at that 92 Brian May, I think I saw him twice on that tour, once with Soundgarden and once with Brian May, unless that was the same gig, and I don't think it was.
I don't think it was. I was there, and I'd remember.
Yeah. Anyway, this was the time with Brian May, and Brian May, it was the only time I've ever been close to Brian May, sitting in the small room. So it's Duff on my left and Brian May across the room, and the room is small. It's not a meet and greet. It's more like I'm up in the belly of the beast. You know, they got jams going and decorated like an opium den, and there's anything you want to drink and all that crap. Yeah. Everything that's, you know, if you've seen Scenes from the Dirt, it's not really like that. It was just chill, you know?
Yeah.
And Axl's over there holding some kind of strange marsupial in his lap. And I got up and walked around the room and got behind like his right shoulder above where he was standing. And I know he knew I was standing there, and I'm looking over, I'm just going, whoa. And I'm tripping more. I'm trying to leave Axl alone, but I want to see what the hell he's got in his lap.
Yeah.
Because he has like a wombat. Anyway. Timmy Doyle was working for Matt Sorum, and I kind of knew Matt because the Toys toured with the Cult. Yeah. And he was in the Cult before Guns Sonic Temple tour. So yeah. I was back. Timmy Doyle worked for LA Guns. I toured with LA Guns. Anyway, it was acquaintances and friends, and it was the reason I was back there. Nice. I was with Jeff Tweedy. But anyway, that's pretty much all of the Duff I can recall.
Well, that's great.
That's all my Duff. Yeah, that was some good Duff.
Thanksgiving with Duff. And Chester. That's pretty cool.
That's right. Right.
I was digging through my mental Rolodex and trying to come up with some memories for this show, things to share. And I found that I have a handful of memories that are very Spinal Tap-ish, and those are always great. So I'll start with it's about somewhere between 90 and 92, and I was in San Antonio going to see Danzig and White Zombie play together at a club called Sneakers in San Antonio that you're very familiar with. And I went down there during the afternoon, as I used to do, and try to hang out at soundcheck or meet the bands after soundcheck, before or after soundcheck, get some albums signed, that sort of thing. And I had done a phone interview with Rob Zombie a couple weeks beforehand. And at the time, I was still in college. So I was writing the article for my college newspaper. And, White Zombie's an up and coming band. So they're happy to talk to college newspapers. Any press is good press, right? So I go to the club and I'm hanging around trying to get autographs and run into the band. And Rob Zombie and Sean Yseult, I believe is how you pronounce her name, the bass player in White Zombie. They step out of the building. I remind them, hey, I'm the guy that interviewed you a few weeks ago. We're chit-chatting. This is behind the building. They just stepped out of the back door. The tour bus is parked back there. And we're just getting acquainted, getting to know each other. And around the opposite corners of the building comes these police cars, and they're hauling ass. And they come around the corner from opposite directions, and they come screeching up, and they pin me and Rob Zombie and Sean in the middle of about 3 to 4 cop cars. And we're freaking out, like, what's going on? The doors fly open, the cops jump out. They come over to us. They're asking for our IDs. And of course, I've got mine on me. So I just hand them my ID. Well, Rob and Sean don't have theirs on them. They are claiming that their IDs are on the bus. And the cops don't, I can't recall if somebody on the bus saw the commotion and came out with the IDs, or if Rob or Sean went back to the bus and got the IDs. But ultimately, the IDs were produced. Zombie and Sean hand over their IDs to the cops. The cops are looking at the IDs. They're whispering. They're talking on their radios. And we're going, what's going on here? What's going on? And they said, well, we got a call that there were some people that were breaking into cars at a Long John Silver's restaurant across the street, and you guys matched the description.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold up. So let me guess, at this time, you had hippie hair down to your ass.
Yes.
All one length, Cousin It style.
Yes.
Okay, now, maybe there is quite a large demographic in San Antonio with that hairstyle.
This is my point. Exactly.
Okay. Well, the other point would be, I don't know a whole lot of people who look like members of White Zombie unless they're a huge fan,
right?
And they have green hair with bones in their noses and ripped up jeans with patches of Frankenstein all over them.
Right, exactly. Right. So that's my other point. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, I could see me matching the description of somebody, but who looks like Rob Zombie in 1992 in broad daylight?
Or even Sean.
Even Sean, yeah.
Last night's grease paint.
Yeah.
Last night's grease paint.
Sean's got bones in her hair, and Rob Zombie's got the denim jacket with the tattered patches, and he's got the dreadlocks, and he's wearing the Dawn of the Dead t-shirt. And I'm thinking, who matches this description? I'm thinking the cops are working off of a very general description without a lot of detail, because in 1992, nobody matches the description of Rob Zombie.
Yeah. So hold on. There's nothing general about that at all. Like, you're the general description.
I am.
Yeah, you are, because you don't have bones in your hair with last night's grease paint on.
Right. So. Right. I'm the normal looking one. Yeah. And by most standards, I'm not that normal looking.
At all. Right.
Thinking, okay, yeah, I could see it. We are in San Antonio. I am hanging around a rock club. Granted, it's 4:00 in the afternoon and no one's here. But if the description being phoned in said we've got 3 long hairs breaking into some cars, then I understand. But you take a closer look, and you basically have 1 long hair and 2 street people, with the dreadlocks and the bones in their hair and all that good stuff. So anyway, the cops cleared us, and we all had a good chuckle, including the cops. And they were like, so what's the name of your band? And, Rob's telling them White Zombie. We're playing here later tonight. And they were like, okay, well, enjoy your time in San Antonio and have a good show tonight. And then before they left, I said, hey, do you mind taking a photo of me and Rob in front of your car? Because there's one of these cop cars in the background. So they're like, sure. So they take a photo of me and Rob Zombie with San Antonio's finest parked in the background. And then we got one of me and Sean also. So the cops let us go. They had a good laugh at the whole thing, and they left. And then Rob and Sean said, so, hey, man, do you know where we can get a cup of coffee around here? And I'm familiar with the area, of course. And I said, yeah, if you go around this corner, take a left. As soon as you turn the corner, there's a mom and pop convenience store right there, and they'll probably have some coffee for you. And they were like, great, thanks. We'll catch up with you later. And they started walking off, and I'm watching them leave, looking at them from behind it. I'm thinking, some poor store clerk at the mom and pop convenience store is about to get the fright of their life when these two show up looking for a cup of coffee.
Yeah, you being from San Antonio, let me ask you this, because I write songs about this kind of shit. I write songs about this, about I dedicate songs. You've heard me talk about it. It's like this song is, I think I used to dedicate the song Electric.
Yes.
To the following, to the lifestyle, to, this goes out to the people who wake up every morning and kiss their Slayer poster. They bow down to their Motorhead collection before they go to school or before they put on the suit and tie and go to work. This is what this song is about. In San Antonio, or I also say this is dedicated to the demographic, if you will, of the people who shave their head, who have long hair, who have no hair, who have a green mohawk, who have blue sideburns, who are wearing the Misfits shirt every day of the week until it stinks so bad they get kicked out of the 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So this is us, and this is our army. In San Antonio, my question to you is, all of the above sounds fairly like a popular lifestyle, because San Antonio is a rock and roll city.
Yeah.
So really, is the clerk at the mom and pop shop, the little 7-Eleven, are they gonna be freaked out, or are they gonna be, you guys dress like my son?
Well, the only reason I say that is because I used to live in an apartment behind Sneakers, so I was in that convenience store all the time, and it was a little mom and pop shop, and it was kind of out of the way, and it was run by a family, and you would just imagine that this was not their typical walk-in traffic.
Okay, I get it now.
Even in San Antonio. If this was
I guess
7-Eleven,
I'm trying to give credit to San Antonio by way of the clerk might go, holy crap, you guys are in White Zombie.
Right.
That could happen a block away.
Yeah, and it probably would a block away. If it was 7-Eleven on Nacogdoches, then sure, that nobody's going to bat an eye, Yeah. But this is mom and pop over in the cul-de-sac behind the low rent apartments, and I'm sure they've never seen anything like these two.
Well, that makes it fun.
So that was my brush with the law with Rob Zombie and Sean Yseult. That was a great time, and the picture's a classic. So
that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. Okay, set me up. Which one do you want to hear?
Oh, I don't know. Did you mention David Lee Roth at one point?
Yes, I have a short David Lee Roth. Your David Lee Roth is way better than my David Lee Roth, because he actually called your house and left funny messages, and your interview with him is classic. It's probably my favorite. I was in Hollywood, I want to say it was probably the first time I actually walked up and down the strip, Sunset.
Yeah.
And literally under the awning, and I think I had a little point and shoot. It wasn't a 35 millimeter. There's no cell phones. Nothing in the world is a digital anything. There's no digital media. Literally under the awning in front of the rainbow is David Lee Roth. I'm just walking by, and out of the corner of my eye, and no one's messing with them. No one's seeing them. I saw them. Yeah. It's dark. The porch light is off. It's closed. It's late. Okay. Like really late. And, like the bars are closed kind of a moment, right? There's a little bit of traffic, people going to the next after hours party or whatever, right? Going to their cars, whatever. And I'm by myself. And like I said, under the awning in front of the rainbow, David Lee Roth in the middle, and on his right is an Amazon woman, like giant blonde. It looked like somebody that could have been. It looked like the body. I don't know. This is. It's of course it's not her, but the bodybuilder that's in like one of his videos. The
just a gigolo.
California Girls or
yeah,
just gigolo. One of the body. It looked like big hair.
Yeah.
Just big. She was big. Everything was big, right? Like bigger than him, like taller and everything, bigger. And on his left was, I am assuming, a driver or a bodyguard or whatever. It was a big black man, and they were yucking it up. They were just laughing and joking, and all three of them were just having a good old time. And they were obviously really close friends, all three of them, or maybe they weren't close friends and just met that night. Highly doubtful, just because of the interplay, right? And I'm literally frozen in my tracks, going, no one gives a shit. Am I the only? I feel like the tourist with the camera around his neck, going, with the Gilligan hat and probably glasses like these, standing there going, oh my God, it's a rock star, or whatever. And that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I inched closer to what was going on, and they full on see me. And they're not even reacting whatsoever. It's like I'm getting closer and closer to the mouth of the lion's den, right? And the only one that starts to react is what I'm assuming would have been the driver bodyguard. And he's kind of like holding his hand out, like, that's close enough, young man, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I go, can I take a picture? And he's like, kind of like, I don't think that's a good idea. He's motioning because they're still yucking it up, right? I'm not a threat, and they know I'm not a threat. And I didn't get to like have a conversation.
I'm sorry, dude. I'm sorry. I'm just visualizing this. I've got this mental image of David Lee Roth just cackling on and on and on, and you're like standing 6 inches away, and he's just oblivious.
Oh man, he's just doing this and being David Lee Roth, man. He's just he's just doing this and he's just being Dave. And exactly how I would expect him to sound and look and everything, right?
Yeah.
So I'm getting closer and closer, and I'm getting the no from his Secret Service, and I'm like, damn, they really don't want me to just snap this photo. And I think I turned the flash off, and I did snap a photo, but that was after, and it came out like shit. It's dark. It's just 3 phantoms in the dark, and you can't really tell. Look, it's my picture of David Lee Roth, and it's just a
silhouette
smidge on a piece of paper, right? But I did shake his hand. I put my hand out, and Roth did put his hand out, and I got to shake his hand.
Oh,
it was like, but it was like shaking hands with a tree. No, he did. It was a night off, and I'm bugging him on his night off, on his night out on the town. He's at home, and I'm trying to sell him Girl Scout cookies. He didn't want any cookies. He didn't want to meet me, but so no conversing or anything like that. But that was my brush with Roth. Yours kills mine. I'm just glad that you enjoyed my Roth story, because that's all it is. It's nothing.
No, that's funny, because
I have an Eddie Van Halen that's maybe only a slightly more exciting. But again, your Eddie Van Halen blows mine away, because you're a journalist and you're actually had been invited to interview them for a half an hour. That's different than me, being. Actually, Eddie crept up on me and was asking, where's Sam? Because I was in Sammy Hagar's dressing room, and he comes in going, where's Sam? And he's literally right behind me, and I've got a mouthful of carrots from the deli tray or something. And that's all I heard out of Eddie's mouth. Where's Sam? It was like, oh, we're just in here eating his deli tray, which Eddie didn't give a crap about that. He was just looking for Sam. Oh, all right. Cool. Turn around and leave. So there you go. There's my Roth and my Eddie rolled into one.
That's good stuff, man. Yeah. Any time with Roth, however fleeting, is worth remembering and sharing.
I got one to throw at you that you probably don't recall. Do you remember being in the dressing room backstage after seeing Down play at La Zona Rosa? me and you sort of like snuck back there, and we're hanging out with Kirk Winstein.
And
It was Kirk Winstein we were hanging out with. Pepper was trying to. You were sitting on Pepper's jacket. I'm not trying to embarrass you. You were sitting on Pepper's jacket, and he's behind your chair peeling it up. You didn't know this. You're leaning forward, but your ass is on his jacket, and he's looking at me going, like, making a face like, dude's sitting on my jacket. He's trying to get my jacket. That was Pepper. Pepper was leaving the room. Kirk had some friends back there with him, and we were just kind of bugging them.
Yeah, I remember.
Kirk is gracious. Kirk is one of the nicest cats I've ever met. And I met him through Daryl Abbott. Some call him Dimebag. Yeah, I met him through Daryl at Savvy's in like the early 90s, 92, 93. We went through Arlington, I believe, where he lives, and that's the first time I met Kirk from Crowbar. Way before Down, a few years before Down. So,
I do remember that night because you got us backstage and we were hanging out with Kirk, and I do remember Pepper. And the thing I always remember about that night was Rex, because he was kind enough at the end of the night. They cleared the venue, and we're still hanging out with Rex and Kirk.
Right. And Rex was in and out of our little huddle with Kirk.
Yeah. And at the end of the night, the venue is cleared, and we're hanging out with Rex, and we walk over to the merch booth, and he basically, gives both of us tells us, take your pick. And to this day, I have a Down long sleeve jersey from that night that was handed to me by Rex himself. So yeah,
I have the same. I have a hoodie and a long sleeve jersey somewhere, and he gave me the beanie off his head. I don't know if you remember that, but Rex gave me the Down beanie right off his freaking head.
Yeah.
And I think someone stole that. There's a picture someone posted on Facebook just a couple days ago of me wearing that Down beanie.
Yeah.
Oh, John Andrews. John Andrews posted 2 photos of him and his girlfriend, and it's just me random photos with him and his girlfriend. And in the picture of me and John Andrews' girlfriend, I'm so sorry, everyone. I can't think. Anita. Her name's Anita. It's me and Anita. I'm wearing that Down beanie that Rex gave me.
Yeah, I do remember that night. That was a great one.
It was. They were great. I remember Philip being a little inebriated.
I don't remember Philip. I don't know that I ever saw him.
No. On stage. You saw
on stage.
On
yeah,
stage.
On stage. Yeah.
It was one of those. It was just one of those probably not so rare nights during that tour where he was a little long-winded between songs.
Yeah. Let's move on to. I've got another one. This one is some people might have heard this story before, but it has to do with C.J. Ramone, the bass player from the Ramones. And he was in town. It was around 2006, 2007. This is post Ramones, obviously. The Ramones called it quits in 96. And he's in town as part of South by Southwest with a band that he has at the time called Bad Chopper. And I found out that he was in town to perform. And, as most artists do during South by Southwest, they show up, they have 2 or 3 gigs, and then they basically hang around the city for 3, 4, 5 days or whatever. So I'm aware that he's in town. I'm going to go try and find him and see if I can catch some of his shows and maybe hang out with him or whatever, because I'm a big Ramones freak. Well, I decide on purpose, I wear a Los Gusanos t-shirt, which is one of his bands previous to Bad Chopper and after the Ramones. He had a band called Los Gusanos, which is Spanish for the worms, I believe. So I decide I'm going to go downtown. I'm going to wear this Los Gusanos shirt, And if I don't spot CJ, maybe he'll spot me because I'm going to be the only guy in town wearing a Los Gusanos t-shirt.
Well, that shirt is like chum in the water.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
bait. You're baiting him.
Exactly. That was my plan.
Yeah. Good thinking. Well, you're a fan. You're a
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah. So I'm walking down the street. It's downtown Austin. And of course, there was a club, for those who aren't familiar, called Emos, which was the punk rock club. And it was a pretty sizable venue. They had an indoor stage, an outdoor stage, and they used to bring in like mid-level size bands. And during South by Southwest, you'd even have like some giant names play there. Johnny Cash played there one year. So anyway, I'm walking down the sidewalk or walking down the street during South by Southwest. There's a line to get into Emos that's like down the street and around the corner and just goes on forever. And I'm just strolling down the street, and sure enough, I hear this voice that says, "Hey, nice shirt." And, it's the New York accent and stuff, And I turn around and I'll be damned, it's CJ. And I walk over to him and I say hello, and he says hello. And I remind him that I've met him before and I've interviewed him. And he's like, "Oh, right, cool. And he's like, and he says, "Do you have any juice around here?" Which was his way of asking if I had any connections to get him into this gig, because he's standing in line with, hundreds of other people that don't stand a chance of getting in. And this singer songwriter named Holly Golightly was playing, and he wanted to check her out because he was about to go do some shows with her, and he wanted to see what her vibe was all about or whatever. And she was kind of a buzz band at that particular time. And he asked me if I have any connections. So I said, "Well, I'm at Emo's probably twice a week because I live here. So let's go to the front. Let's go see who's working the door." We go up to the front door, and it couldn't have been a better guy. It was this guy named Gabe, who is a local punk rock bass player, and he used to play in the Contradicts. And then after the Contradicts, he played in a band called the Impossibles that I think was a little more of a ska punk band. But anyway, this guy is a punk rocker and he's a bass player, and I'm introducing him to CJ Ramone at the front door of Emo's, and I ask him if he can do us a favor. And of course, Gabe is only too happy to like slide us in. So I get CJ into this club and we hang out at the venue.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
It's good to be the king.
Well, it's good to have Gabe working the door that night,
Well, yeah, but that sort of Mel Brooks thing. It's good to be the king.
Well, I get him and his band into the venue. We're watching the show, and he goes, "I got to leave after she's done because I've got a gig. Do you know where a club called the Hole in the Wall is?" And I said, "Yeah, of course I do. I live here." And he says, "Do you mind going with us so you can get us there?" Because this is before GPS and everything, right? And I said, "No, not at all." He goes, "Then you jump in the van with us and you get us over there. And we'll get you into the show and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, "Great." So we leave. He's driving the van. I'm sitting shotgun. His band is sitting behind us. We get to the Hole in the Wall. We load in the gear. He does the show. We load out the gear. We're back in the van. And he says, "Somebody in there told me about a party at some warehouse on the east side of town, wherever that is." And I said, "I bet I know what you're talking about." And he goes, "You think you know how to get there?" And I said, "If it's the place I'm thinking, yeah." And he goes, "All right, well, show me." So I'm navigating again. I'm sitting shotgun. CJ's driving. We go to the east side. We walk.
Hi, I'm Metal Dave. I'm your punk rock tour guide in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
On the right, I have sitting CJ Ramone and his band. How are you guys doing?
Exactly. It was one of those. So we get to the warehouse, and these after hours parties. By now it's 3 or 4 in the morning, and we walk into this warehouse, and it's jam packed full of people, and there's kegs of beer everywhere, and that all girl AC/DC tribute band Hell's Bells is playing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're watching Hell's Bells. We're drinking beer. It's 4 in the morning. I'm hanging out with one of my heroes. This is just great, right? And so I don't know, about 5 or 6 in the morning, he says, "Dude, we gotta get out of here." He goes, we'll take you home, and then we gotta go." And I said, "Great, that'd be great." So we jump back in the van. He drives me back to my apartment. The band guys and CJ, They drop me off at my front door as the sun is coming up.
Rock and
And
roll.
that was my entire evening as you said, CJ Ramone's Austin tour guide. And I couldn't have been more thrilled because you know how much of a Ramones fan I am. So that was like some quality time.
I love it. I would even wear a T-shirt that commemorates that evening. Like, I survived an entire night of, and then has the list like a tour poster, like a list.
Yeah,
like all of the emos at this time,
hole in the
van at this time, hole in the wall at this time, after hours party at this time, special event featuring Hell's Bells, in the van at this time, in time for sunup,
home for breakfast. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That was great, and I've shared that story with him in years past, and he totally remembers it. So
killer.
That was fun. Let's talk Dee Snider.
I have a Dee Snider story I can tell. So it was about 1984, and I don't know the date. I know I've looked it up before, but it barely anything sticks anymore. I've looked up the date. It was Can't Stop Rock and Roll Tour. That's how early it was. So there's no Stay Hungry. Right?
I was going to say Stay Hungry because that was 84.
It's Can't Stop Rock and Roll. So it's early. If they have it in the can, I don't know it to be in the can. Stay Hungry.
So Can't Stop.
Could have been late 83, maybe. Anyway, so I'm with these couple of people from San Antonio who have IDs that show they're of age. I don't want to say fake ID, but they may have been fake because I feel like these cats were. It was a guy named from San Antonio, Tony Helldog. I think that there's this other guy, Chris, that was with them, who hung out with the SA Slayer dudes all the time, and it was also Ricky Warhite. Ricky Warhite is who he was my conduit to SA Slayer, and Ricky was just the best guy. Anyway, because I have a photo from that night of me holding up what's that? Their first EP.
Under the Blade.
No. Prior to that.
Oh.
Rough Cuts. Something like that. Called like Rough Cuts.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's not on Atlantic. It's not on a major label. Anyway, I'm holding that up in the photo. I might still have it. I may have sold that because I was broke at one point. Anyway, my mom takes me and my brother Randy and our friend Brian Bowen, who we used to be able to use each other's IDs if necessary, because we had long blonde hair and we were little punks, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so my mom is the key here, because the drinking age had just changed. So my friends from SA, they had their own document that could get them through the door. The drinking age had just changed. Like when I was 18, they changed in Texas, they changed the drinking age to 19. When I was 19, they changed it to 21. So I was chasing being able to get into an alcohol establishment, an adult establishment, right? So anyway, Twisted Sister was doing clubs. They played this place called Cardi's, which was out on Burnett Road, way north. They had one in Houston at the time, but I think the chain died years later. But anyway, there was nothing out there out on Burnett Road back then. One of the like IBM or something like that was one of the like that was one of the early computer corporations, and they were way out there, and that was about all that was out there. It was a strip mall, and anyway, this club Cardi's was way out there. My mom gets us in. I think I'm 18. In 83, I'm 18. Pretty sure. Yeah. So my mom gets the three of us in, me, my brother Randy, and Brian Bowen. And then my friends from SA drove up and they got in on their own. So we were, counting my mom, we were like 7 people out of about 15 or 20 people there to see Twisted Sister. And we had the whole club to ourselves. There was no opening band. There was literally a Chippendales, like a male dance review.
Yeah.
Like an hour before Twisted Sister, like before they opened the door for Twisted Sister. So it had baited Dee Snider to like be, hey, were you guys here for the male review? You know, he was able to like throw stones and have fun with that. But they were on the road by themselves. I don't think they were, or it was a one-off, right?
Yeah.
And I had a stack of records. My mom sat in the back and read a book. I had her point and shoot camera. I have the photos literally 3 feet away from me that I took. And like, I'm so close because there's no barricade. I'm so close. It's like Dee Snider's nostril, and that's how close I am. Yeah. I've got a picture that's framed of like, JJ French's face, like this close. That's how close I was in the front row. So it was like my own private Twisted Sister show. And you know what? They were fucking raging.
Yeah.
There's less than 20 people in the bar. They were on fire.
Yeah.
It was so intense. And it's like, you know what I mean? It was like, there's almost nobody in here, and you guys are like machine gunning down whoever's watching. You guys are just killing it. And it was I learned a lot that night. And anyone who's never seen Twisted Sister because they just kind of wrote them off for whatever your reasons are, you're fucked.
Yeah.
You're dumb. If you want to see someone just totally throw down some dirty ass rock and roll, look past whatever it is you don't like about Twisted Sister. You're going to learn some shit. Anyway. So the story is more about what happened after. And he even said, hey, y'all hang out. Don't go anywhere. We're going to go dry off and change, and we'll be back out to hang out with you guys. Literally said that in the mic, just like what people do when it's DIY. Hey, we'll meet you over there at the merch table. Thanks a lot, guys. That kind of thing, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's normal for punk rock bands. It's normal for DIY. Doesn't matter if you're a singer, songwriter, or whatever. Hey, I'm going to come out there and hang out with y'all. That's normal, right? You don't say that when you're in the arena.
Right.
but you, right, whatever. Even though the Toys used to do that, we'd open for the Cult, and then I'd show up at the merch table.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so everyone's hanging out, and Twisted Sister walks in, and they're just hanging out, taking anyone who has a camera. They take photos. They hang out. I got to hang out with AJ Pero. I got to hang out with Dee Snider. I got to hang out with JJ French. I got to hang out with all of them. Yeah. And all my records, they signed them all. Most of them were imports because I'm a huge fan.
Yeah.
And I still have a bunch of those. Like I think Rough Cuts is gone, if I'm even saying that. It was on Secret Records. You ever heard of that label?
I have.
Secret Records.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, it's rare, obviously. And Leader of the Pack, a cover of Leader of the Pack was on that record.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm hanging out with Dee Snider, and me and my brother, and I think me and my brother, and this is really dumb, but we were punks. Watchtower, I was in Watchtower at the time. We are all wearing the brand new, and this is embarrassing. They're all white T-shirts, Watchtower shirts. We're all three wearing them, so we're easy to pick out. Oh, these guys are together. Obviously, one of them's in a band, and they're pushing. Nice kids. Oh, look at the kids. They got a little rock and roll band. Anyway, we were just excited. Your first band T-shirt, right? Yeah. And I had talked all those guys into wearing them because Brian and Randy, they were into it. They were like, fuck yeah. Everyone knows how it is. You're for early bands,
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're 18 years old, whatever. And I guess Randy would have been 16 or 17. We're 18 months apart. He's November, I'm March. See what I'm saying? So, Dee Snider, I'm like, I can't even think of enough questions to ask him. Hey, I'm a singer. What do you do to, you know, I don't know. Oh my God, you know, total, I'm not worthy all the way around. Nicest guys. And I'm being treated like, you know, hey kid, nice to meet you. Keep on rocking. Don't let anyone tell you what. Don't trust anyone over 30. Better, you know, it's that kind of advice from Uncle D, right? And I'm just worshiping the whole thing. I'm totally loving life. And it's one of the greatest moments. And I think the only like idols I had sort of met at that time were Saxon. You know, maybe 8 or 9 months to a year earlier. And they both the stories rival each other, but the Dee Snider and the Twisted Sister story is interesting by way of Dee Snider said comes up to me and he kind of goes, "Hey man, I don't know why he just thought it would be a good idea to do this, but he holds out his hand. He's got a joint in his hand, and he goes, I don't do drugs. So I got to get rid of this. Can I give this to you to get rid of it because I don't want to I don't need this. I don't want this. Someone just gave it to me and I don't want it to get into the wrong hands. And I'd rather have someone who enjoys that lifestyle to have this." So I'm like, "Oh yeah, cool. So I think I just put it in my pocket and kind of forgot about it. So I remember even up to 6 months to a year later, living in a duplex with Randy and Brian. And I had, of course, posters everywhere. And I had of course, a Ziploc bag. And I had a business card side. This was given to me by Dee Snider in 1983, And there's a fucking joint in this. And I had it thumbtacked onto the wall next to a Twisted Sister poster or something. Well, I come home at one point. It's that later, I don't know when it was, and it was gone.
Of course it was.
Yeah, because roommates, they're like, oh man, why is this here? That's stupid. I'm just gonna smoke this. I think I was mad for a minute, and I was just like, why would I get mad? I bet Dee doesn't remember that.
That's great.
I think he remembers or might recall that show, and maybe meeting a bunch of kids, and then kind of putting it together years later. Because you remember in Metal Edge magazine. We should mention Jerry Miller, the editor for Metal Edge magazine. She recently passed away. Thought that was terrible news. So, moment of silence for her. She was always super, super cool. Do you remember Metal Edge magazine? Used to put, I forget what the segment was called, The Way They Were, and it had like childhood photos of everyone riding their tricycle and their big wheel and birthday party and Halloween, silly shit, little cute baby
Chocolate
photos. And you recall that? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they did one on Dangerous Toys, and there's a picture of me holding my kitty, and there's a picture of, by golly, there's a picture of me and Dee Snider from that night, and me wearing my white Watchtower shirt, and Dee Snider's got his arm around me, he's pointing at the camera like Dee always did, and I love that photo. Anyway, it's in that segment of so it was a national, that photo from that night was published in a national publication.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
So yeah.
Wow.
That's a great story. And then years later, when the things that happened to me had happened to me, whenever Dee would play, he has his syndicated, show on satellite radio, Hair Nation, right? House of Hair is his show. Whenever he plays Dangerous Toys, it's usually Scared, and he always does shout outs to me. And that makes me feel so good. It makes me feel like, okay, wait a minute. He saw that photo of us from '83 in Metal Edge magazine 5 years later and put that together. Oh, that's the dude from Texas at the
Yeah.
And so he put it together. And so, yeah, pretty
That's
cool.
Awesome. That's awesome. A joint from Dee Snider. Wow.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw him years later at the Back Room, ironically, when he was on tour with one of his sort of solo projects, Desperado or
Widowmaker.
It was with Widowmaker, and I asked him about the Desperado tapes, and he gave me his address, and I wrote him, and he wrote me back and sent me the tape. And I can't find the tape. It pisses me off. I think it had Bernie Torme on guitar,
Clive Burr on drums.
Yes, and I don't have it. It's probably on YouTube now. But anyway, I remember that night at the Back Room, him and his tour manager had walked in, and of course, he saw me. He was like, "Dude, what's up? Hey, da 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 da." And his tour manager handed me a Twisted Sister pick. It's on my desk over there, and on one said Twisted Sister, and it's wrecked. It's faded. It's old as shit. It's probably from the late '70s, dude. and it says Grayson's on the back, which was a music store in New York.
Yeah. Okay.
That was put in my hand by Dee Snider's tour manager in front of Dee Snider. Like, dude's killer. That's better than the joint.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Dee Snider, one of the greatest. Yeah.
Dave's turn.
I don't know if you know this, but my next story involves Ginger Wildheart, who you're familiar with. For those who are listening who aren't familiar with Ginger, his band is called the Wildhearts, and over in Europe they're a big deal. And they never really got a break in North America, and never really got radio play or whatever in the States, but overseas they're a pretty big deal. And so Ginger was in town again one year for South by Southwest, and I was introduced to him, and I met him, and I'm a journalist at this point, so he's kind enough to take my email address and whatever. Well, fast forward, I get a phone call one day. I'm sitting at home in South Austin. I get a phone call, and it's Ginger, and he says, "Hey, Dave, it's Ginger. I'm in Texas. I'm recording my first solo album. I'm at Willie Nelson's studio." And he says, "Do you know where that is?" And I said, "I've heard of it, and I'll find out." And I said, "How long are you there?" And he goes, "I'll be here for, a week or something like that, working on this album." And he said, "If you can get over to the studio, it'd be great to see you and hang out a little bit." And I'm like, I mean, this is out of the blue, just totally blew my mind. So at the time, I'm writing for Classic Rock magazine out of the UK. And I know that classic rock and the British music press in general just love Ginger and the Wildhearts. So I email my editor at Classic Rock and I say, "Hey, did you know that Ginger Wildheart is in Texas recording his first solo album at Willie Nelson's studio?" And my editor said, "I think I heard something about that, but I wasn't sure." And I said, "He just called me and confirmed it." And I said, "How about I go to the studio and I interview him, and we do an exclusive feature for the magazine on site at Willie Nelson studio with Ginger Wildheart as he puts together his first solo album." The editor, Scott Rowley, who I believe you know, is all over it. He says, yes, please. Oh my God. Yes. That's an exclusive scoop, man. This is a big deal. So I go to this.
I don't know Willie's studio to be called Willie's studio other than Pedernales.
Studio.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
He owns it. He owned it and then lost it during the IRS debacle and then got back. People associate it with Willie Nelson. He's been part owner or exclusive owner for years and years and years. And he's cut a bunch of his own records there. And a lot of people have worked there because apparently it's a state-of-the-art studio. So I look this place up. I drive out there. Sure enough, Ginger's sitting outside waiting for me. We go in. We're hanging out in the studio, and it's just me, Ginger, and this guy named Ralph, who's the engineer. And Ralph is an old friend of Ginger's, who at the time was living in San Antonio, so he drove up for these sessions. So we're hanging out, having a great old time. I brought some Texas beer just to give Ginger a taste of some local brew, and we're hanging out. We do the interview. And Ginger says, he goes, hey, any chance you know how to play piano? And I said, I don't. And he goes, damn it. And he said, my piano player, the guy I hired to play piano on a couple tracks, apparently isn't going to show up today. And if you could play piano, I was going to let you do it. And I said, dang, man.
You could have asked me that on the phone, bro.
Yeah, I would have done a crash course or something. I don't know. But he says, okay, I'll try and figure it out myself. And I'm sitting there watching him, and he's plunking around on this piano. Obviously, he plays guitar, and he's a pretty good musician, but he's not competent in his piano playing. And I watched him mess around with the keys on this piano for about 10 minutes, and he had it. And he's like, okay, I'm ready. Let's roll tape. And he recorded it. And then he says, he comes up to me and he goes, you know, I couldn't help but know. He says, I love your voice, dude. I want to do something with your voice while you're in the studio. And I was like, what? I said, I'm not a singer. And he goes, no. And I don't want you to sing. It's your speaking voice. We got to do something with that voice while you're here in the studio with all these microphones, et cetera. And I was like, you tell me whatever you want, and I would be honored to be on a Ginger Wildheart record.
Hell yeah.
So he gets a scrap of paper, and he's got this song called Love. And what he wants is sort of a creepy spoken word outro for this song using my voice, but we don't know what I'm going to say. So he says, okay, the song is all about this and that. And he goes, okay, so here's what I want you to say. And so if you get the album's called Valor del Corazon, and he admitted that later on that his Spanish was a little flubbed. It should be Valor de Corazon. But anyway, you can
rock and roll people don't care about that.
Yeah, and he's British, and he's trying to title it in a Spanish title and whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah, who cares? It's rock and roll. So the album came out in 2005, and so we're in the studio, and he goes, okay, here's what I want you to say. He writes it down on a scrap of paper, and it's basically like me being almost like a creepy, spurned boyfriend or lover or something like that. So I'm going, she said she loved me. She wasn't lying, was she? Why would she lie? It's something like that.
Oh, cool.
It's like this real creepy outro with my voice. And then what he wants, here's the exclamation point. What he wants at the end is something like Bon Scott at the end of Night Prowler, where he does the Shazbot, Nanu Nanu. You know what I mean? So Ginger wants this real creepy voice to sort of outro the song, and then right at the last minute say something silly. And I'm like, okay, well, what's the punchline? And he goes, he goes, I got it. We're talking about liars, right? We're talking about the girl was a liar. She lied to me, whatever. So here it is. At the end of your thing, say, pants on fire. So he wants me to pause after this long, creepy outro and leave a little, pause for just a moment, just like Bon Scott does on that Night Prowler song. And then the punchline is pants on fire.
That is awesome.
I go into the vocal booth. I've got these headphones on. I've never been in a vocal booth in my life. I don't even know the cadence he wants me to say this stuff. I've never heard the song before. And so they're in the control room, and I'm looking at them. I'm taking visual cues from them. And he's like, okay, we're rolling. And I just started with this, and I was like, she said she loved me. She blah, 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 blah. Pants on fire. And he goes, I look over at the control room, and he's just kind of in pieces, and he's like, oh, and he gets on the mic, and he comes into my headphones, and he's like, dude, that was amazing. You sound terrifying, mate. And I said, can I do it again? Was that okay? And he goes, you could do it again if you want, but that was great. So I think we did 3 takes and kept the first one, of course, right?
Nice.
I am on Ginger Wildheart's solo album, Valor de Corazon, his first solo album, 2005, on a song called Love. That's me doing the creepy outro voice at the end.
That is freaking awesome.
We had a great time. Dude, I was probably at that studio for, oh my God, too long, maybe 8 hours or something like that.
Holy crap.
It was a full afternoon, and it was starting to get into evening, and I was like, I got to get out of here before I'm spending the night in a sleeping bag or something, you know. But I'll never forget it. Great memory.
Yeah, I've never met Ginger, but the lady in Edinburgh, Scotland, that turned me on to Danko Jones used to talk about Ginger all the time, and I think that she her name's Allison. I think she gave Broken Teeth CDs, or turned Ginger on to Broken Teeth.
I gave him some of your stuff too.
Yeah. So he's been being spoon-fed Broken Teeth for 21 years. So.
Yeah. I remember I reached out to him to get a quote from him for one of your press releases.
Oh, that's right.
He's the guy that described you as a pissed off AC/DC.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So he's infamous and famous.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the Ginger article came out in Classic Rock. I think that was my first full-length feature in Classic Rock magazine. So that was, you know, the cherry on top of that whole hangout with Ginger. The article came out great, and Ginger was real happy with it. And I was thrilled with it, and started a long writing relationship with Classic Rock as far as getting away from doing album reviews and doing major features. I got another one since you mentioned Saxon earlier, and this is another one of those Spinal Tap stories. So Saxon is playing at it was called the Metro, then it was called the Dirty Dog. It's basically a music club on 6th Street in downtown Austin, Texas. So the gig that night is Saxon with Udo Dirk Schneider from Accept.
I was there.
And I'm downtown Austin, Texas. At this time, I think I'm writing for KNAC.com. And I am trying to schedule interviews with Biff Byford and Udo Dirk Schneider. And I lock in the interviews. I go to the venue. I bump into the guys. Udo and we go onto Udo's tour bus, and I interview Udo. It's just me and Udo on the bus. And, you know, he's drinking whiskey and he's smoking his Winstons. And it's like, wow, no wonder that he's got that voice, you know.
You know, Jeff Tate smokes like a chimney too.
Yeah, I've always found that fascinating.
So it's not necessarily it's conditioning. It's not, hey, I'm going to do this to ensure that I sound like the devil gargling razor blades. I'm just I just smoke. If you smoke. There's a famous story about Ted Templeman. I think I'm saying that right. The producer. We need to do a show on Ted. When he's producing Van Halen, where Roth had quit smoking and started working out 2 weeks before they start cutting vocals on, I think, the first Van Halen record. And Ted was like, you know, he's cutting some songs and he's like, hey, stop. Dave, what's wrong with your voice? It sounds totally different. Oh man, I quit smoking. I've been working out. I started eating good and all this. He's like, okay, we're taking the rest of the week off. You're going to start smoking again. You're going to go grab a cheeseburger and you're going to just hang out by the pool and get high. Okay. Right. Just go do that all week. And then we'll see you next week. Okay. Because it fucked up his voice. Yeah. It's all about conditioning. Anyway, back to Udo. I love Udo. Please continue.
Yeah. So I'm sitting on the bus with Udo. We're doing the interview. We have a great time. We go back into the venue. Saxon, I think, is already on at this point. So I caught the second half of their set. Unfortunately, that's the price you pay for interviewing Udo when he's done with his set. So I missed the first half, but caught the second half of Saxon's set. And now I'm scheduled to interview Biff after Saxon's set. So they come off stage. We all walk out into the street. I had met them previously during the day, so they knew who I am and what I'm there for. So I'm walking with the band over to the tour bus. The tour bus is parked on 6th Street. It's parked right there on 6th Street. And We get out to the bus and nobody can open the door. So I'm standing there with all of Saxon and their road crew. And
in the middle of the street.
Yeah, on
Yeah.
6th Street. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 2 in the morning.
Scenario is kind of like Bourbon Street.
Yeah, right.
It's like New Orleans or something.
Yeah.
You're in the smack dab in the middle of it all, and there's mucky muck going on everywhere.
Yeah, it's the bar district. It's the party zone.
It's crazy, right? Some streets are blocked off. It's like a festival every weekend. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm standing outside this tour bus with Saxon and their road crew, and we can't get on to the bus. Well, they start banging on the door, and there's a guy inside the bus, the driver or somebody, a road guy or whatever. He sticks his head out the side window, and he can't unlock the door from the inside for some reason. So we got a guy inside the bus that can't unlock the door, and a bunch of guys on the outside of the bus that can't open the door. And it's just a Spinal Tap moment, big time. I'm standing with all these long-hair British rock star dudes outside of a tour bus on 6th Street. And
I'm sorry, I can't help but insert Benny Hill music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like clowny music. Benny Hill's perfect because they're British, right?
Yeah. That would be perfect. So they're passing some tools back and forth through the bus. Somebody goes back into the venue and comes back with like a crowbar or something, and then the guy on the bus has a toolbox, and they're trying to work on this door, and they can't get it open. And I realize that my car is parked around the corner, and I've got a toolbox in the trunk, and I'm thinking it'll take me 5 minutes to walk over to my car and get this toolbox, and maybe I have something that might work. So I go back to my car, pop the trunk, get the toolbox, and while I'm in there, I realize there's a jack in my car. I'm going to bring the jack and just see if that helps too. So we get back to the bus. I get back to the bus. The guys are still stuck out there, and I say, I've got this toolbox and I got this jack. And they look at the jack and they go, let's try the jack. So we wedge the jack under the tour bus door and start to crank it, and it pops the door open.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm the hero.
You're tweaking those hinges, and if the deadbolt is stuck, you're gonna have to jimmy the deadbolt. And
yeah. I don't know anything about the workings of the latch system on a door.
They probably had to chain that door shut when they were rolling down the road. Which
because it was probably broken after that.
About as safe as a tight wire, but
yeah. But I got them on the bus, and they loved me for it because they're beat, dude. It's 2 a.m. They just got done with a show. They want to get on the bus. They want to towel off. They want to drink, and they're stuck outside their own tour bus. So my jack pops the door. I go onto the bus. It's Heineken's all around for Metal Dave. And I do the interview with Biff, and the guys are giving me, this is the Metalhead tour. So it's about 2,000. Yeah, right around 2,000. They give me about 5 passes to the next night show in San Antonio as payment, I guess, or thanks, I guess, for helping them out. And I couldn't make it to that show, but I still have a couple of the passes hanging on my wall here. And every time I look at that particular pass, it reminds me of the day that their wheels of steel were locked up tight, man. I mean,
that's pretty good. Did you get your interview?
I did, yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Wow, that's awesome.
Let's go with, you mentioned Gene Hoagland.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I know you've spent a lot of time with him. First of all, tell people who he is in case anybody listening isn't aware of his amazing.
And you can help me do that. He is a bit of a phenomenon.
Yes.
He is from Long Beach, California. I think his birthday is August 30th, I want to say.
I have no idea.
He, for years and years and years on my birthday, rarely misses a phone. I rarely miss a phone call or a text from Gene Hoagland wishing me a happy birthday. He's very, what's the word? Beguileless guy. He's very humble and very real, and he's like a hyper intelligent kind of guy.
Yeah.
very, very, so I would guess book smart, but I don't know him to be a big reader, but you understand the
Yeah.
type of personality that he is. He's probably one of the most talented drummers in the industry
Yeah.
that a lot of people just don't seem to know about for whatever.
He's a beast.
Yeah, he is a beast. I will throw a couple of, he currently is in Testament.
Right.
But he's played with Death. And of course, the rhythm section from Testament is from Death. It's Steve DiGiorgio and Gene Hoagland from a certain slew of records with Death. So Gene Hoagland is his first like known band was Dark Angel, and Dark Angel is sort of in and out of commission. You know, they do festivals and they tour Europe. And they've been around since the 80s, since the early to mid 80s when they were children.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Gene is not rumored, but in fact confirmed to be in the studio with Slayer when Slayer was Slayer was still on Metal Blade. They were recording the Haunting the Chapel tour. The Haunting the Chapel EP.
Right.
When Slayer toured the Haunting the Chapel record, they were touring the first Show No Mercy, and Haunting the Chapel had just come out, and Hell Awaits wasn't out yet. People who watch Talk Louder have heard me talk about that infamous gig with Militia Watchtower Slayer at the Ritz downtown, which is like a block away from where you're the Saxon's hero.
Correct. Yeah.
So, right, many years later. So anyway, the recording Haunting the Chapel for Metal Blade, and a young Gene Hoagland, probably 16 or 17 years old, 16 maybe, is holding down the kick drums, because when Lombardo's going on the kick drums, they're sliding across the fucking floor.
Yeah.
And Gene, you know, kind of a hefty fella sometimes, big dude, you know, he's holding those kick drums down, and the red button is on. They're recording the song. So next time you hear any song on Haunting the Chapel, think about a young Gene Hoagland with his paws on those kick drums, you know, one on the left kick, one on the right kick, holding those fuckers down while Lombardo's going.
Oh, that's
machine gun. It's classic. It's real. Yeah, it is. So that's an image of Gene Hoagland, strapping young lad, Canadian, Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
He played on, I believe, anything that's strapping young lad. That's Gene on drums. Death Clock.
Yeah.
Death Clock. That is Gene Hoagland. So when his name is Smalls, help me out. Something Smalls. Brian Smalls, I think is his name. The creator of, he creates cartoons and stuff. Anyway, he created the Metalocalypse cartoon series. Yeah. And I'm so sorry I can't think of his name. Brandon Smalls, I think that's it. Okay. He came in when they decided that they were going to actually record a real band playing those songs instead of Brandon. God, I hope I get that right. Mr. Smalls, I guess I will.
You go. That's it.
He called, you know, who can play this completely inhuman drumming on these songs that I'm obviously using a drum machine. Who could do this for real if I wanted to put people instead of robots in here, you know, instead of drum machines. Yeah. And of course, Gene Hoagland was mentioned, and there was the relationship. So Gene's in Death Clock, Dark Angel, Strapping Young Lad, Testament. I know I'm forgetting, you know, he was in Death. I know I'm forgetting a million other projects that he's on. Here's one that's very, very interesting. A few years ago, a new Godzilla movie came out. And there at the end during the credits, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. At the end of the rolling credits at the end, you hear the BOC, the Blue Oyster Cult song you know, their song Godzilla, a
Yeah.
remake of it done by Mr. Smalls and Gene and Serge Tankian from System of a Down on vocals.
Yeah.
And they've recorded a cover of Godzilla by BOC. Anyway, that's Gene on drums when you are watching that Godzilla movie from a few years ago. And yeah,
Wow.
that's Gene on that. So Gene's everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everywhere. And a lot of people in the underground, they know who Gene Hoagland is.
Sure.
Here's my story. It's 1984, maybe. And Gene is in a band called, at the time, he's transitioning between, he's in a band called War God. And
Okay.
that had Michelle Meldrum on guitar, Greg, I can't remember his last name, on bass, and I don't know if I remember the singer of War God. Anyway, they had some demos out, and that's one of Gene's very earliest moments. And War God might be on a compilation, an early heavy metal compilation, maybe even a Metal Blade, Metal Massacre. I don't know.
Right.
That would be a cool thing to look up. Please, people who know the discography of Gene Hoagland, please comment and tell us if you found any War God recordings and where they show up. I had been pen pals with Michelle from War God, who later on was in Phantom Blue, and then had another band called Meldrum that actually did some touring, I think worldwide, with Black Label Society. Anyway, so Gene writes me a letter too, because Michelle had turned Watchtower on to Gene, and he just became an instant Watchtower fan. He writes me a letter. He writes me, Watchtower a letter, and we start conversing. We start calling each other. I end up going out to play shows in '86. Michelle and Gene drive up to San Francisco. Watchtower played shows in San Francisco in '86. Those, Michelle and Gene, as other friends, drove up there to those Bay Area shows, and then I jumped in Gene's truck, I think, and ended up back in Los Angeles with Gene, and stayed on his parents' sofa for like 2 weeks. And I got to go to Dark Angel rehearsals. I got to help Dark Angel load in to Fender's Ballroom, and the bass player Gonzo let me play bass on a Dark Angel song during sound check.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I think I knew like parts of the song, or I could just tell what, they found out I could play a little bit, and so he just like, here, just play.
Yeah.
It was sound check. It wasn't a big deal, but and Fender's was an infamous. Everybody, Slayer, Metallica, Exodus,
Yeah.
Death Angel,
Even
every band on Metal Blade played Fenders. Anyway, and I want to say that's in Long Beach. But anyway, that was during the same time. That was October. It was right after Cliff passed away. I see your shirt. For those of you listening, Dave's wearing a Cliff Amal T-shirt with with Cliff holding the two fists out with the skull rings. It's classic.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was around the time I was on the phone trying to call James and Lars's house, and I was calling Kirk's house, and I got Kirk, and I got that's when I got Doug from Watchtower, the Metallica audition, yada yada yada. It was also during the same time that I ran into Jason Newsted, who I just told that story on a previous episode.
Yeah.
That's coming soon, and about how I ran into Jason at the country club, and Rosita, which was Flotsam opening for Megadeth. So there's a whole lot of Gene right there. I still have letters where we were pen pals, as we used to say. I was pen pals with James Hetfield for years as well, but me and Gene have been able to stay in touch. I've got John Bush stories out the wazoo, but dude, our show. You realize Talk Louder is getting longer and longer and longer and longer. I think that we're just getting stride and getting comfortable with what's going on here.
Yeah. But we do have to wrap it up. But I enjoyed it. I know there was maybe some hesitancy going into the show about, oh boy, we don't want to do a whole show where we're just name dropping. But the story,
Why not, man?
The stories are great, and there's no point in us keeping them to ourselves. I'm hoping people enjoy this kind of thing, and as much as I enjoy sharing the stories. So
the good news, or you could even call it bad news, would be that we could do a part 2 of this.
Oh, we could do multiple parts of this.
Name droppers. We could do a name dropper series.
Yeah, I think we say that at the end of every show too. We could do another one of these and another one of these and another one of these. But let's wrap this one up for today and move on to our shot of rock and roll. Today's shot of rock and roll for this episode. Again, this one comes from a listener. So I want to continue to encourage our listeners to send suggestions our way. We do use these things. We do enjoy hearing from you. I have a guy on the YouTube page, Jason, who is a big Metal Church fan. So I was going to ask you if you have any Metal Church stories. I know you toured with them at one point, and or if you could just name a favorite Metal Church album. What do you got on Metal Church?
I love the first 2 records. I think that Metal Church is one of those bands that the story that I heard was that first album was actually, I believe, to be recorded and released on their own label, and originally, and kind of like the Motley Crue 2 Faster Love, it was put out on their own kind of label, and then it sold so many copies of it they couldn't keep track of it, and which is a great problem to have, right?
Sure.
And then someone heard about it and signed them. And what it was is I heard that it was because that record is a monster, and I think Terry Date, who's now a famous, he made Pantera sound like Pantera, right? Well, one of the records that he did early years was this is 84, 85. He's recorded the first Metal Church record, I believe, or engineered it or something, and he was kind of the secret weapon on that record. Anyway, that record sold so many copies that I think the guys in Metallica called their attorney, I think it was Peter Paterno, and said, dude, our buddies from Seattle area, Metal Church, they've sold like 5,000 copies of this independent release. You need to call them and reissue the record and give them a deal. Just make it happen. And I want to say I'm dropping all the right names and everything, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But in those early years, Metal Church was one of the bands that came through Austin and played at the Ritz on 6th Street, which is, a block away from where Metal Dave was the hero to Saxon.
It's a recurring theme.
Well, the Ritz is holy ground.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know so much about the Dirty Dog and the 6s and 9s or whatever the hell it was called during that Saxon and Udo tour, but 6th Street, you could just say holy ground. I cut my teeth as a singer down there, specifically in the Ritz, but the old Steamboat was there. The Black Cat was down there. Old Austin was really cool. Old 6th Street was really cool. Now it's just a fucking shot bar.
Yeah.
So anyway, we are a college town. Don't hate us for that. So So anyway, they're at the Ritz and they're on tour with Omen, I believe. I believe it to be Metal Church and Omen. And Militia is on. My buddies in Militia are the openers, right? The local openers. And so I'm down there with Militia hanging out, and Metal Church is all there, and I meet all the guys, and they were awesome. And this is the original Metal Church. Kurt Vanderhoof, Duke Erickson on bass, David Wayne on vocals. Oh, what's the drummer's name? Kurt something. It's another Kurt or something. Anyway, I believe it to be Craig Wells on guitar, on second guitar. Anyway, OG, right? Okay. They have this roadie name that everyone just called Louis, but his name's not Louis. His last name is Lewis. His first name is Bill. So Bill Lewis, but they called him Louis. And I'm still acquainted with Louis on Facebook. And I've told the story at some point. I think it was in Rob Chavez Metalworks, interviews, recent interviews where I told the story about Louis giving me, the kick drum, when you see a band and the logo is huge on the kick drum, as big as you can make your logo on a kick drum. I mean, a 22-inch, 24-inch decal that goes on, in the 80s, it was just a giant sticker that they stuck on there. I guess that was the cheaper route. Now they can print them right. They print right on the drum head.
Right.
But anyway, it makes the drum head, by the way, it makes the drum head sound like shit when you put a giant thick ass hunk of plastic, a sticker all over it. It makes the drum sound, can make the drum sound terrible. Anyway, that was what we had back in the 80s. Louis gave me one of those fucking, it was the original Metal Church logos that was as big as 2 feet wide, it was this fucking big. And it was like a little bent or something, and they had a bunch of them, and he gave me one, and I had that thing stuck on a suitcase for 1,000 years until the suitcase just fucking fell apart. And I loved that story, and Louis was just so great, and he was just a regular, like a bro, like a, hey dude, hey man, I'm the roadie for Metal Church, dude. Hey, let's drink a beer. He was just a normal dude.
Yeah. And
that's what's great. That's my story. I could go on and on and on. When Mike Howe joined Metal Church, we had great times with that, and that was with the Toys, of course. And at the time that I saw the early Metal Church, that's time frame for the story, I was in Watchtower at the time, and that would have been their very first tour, and I'll never forget it. And so that's my Metal Church story for today, to be continued.
Yeah Those first 2 albums are really great. I only saw them once, but David Wayne was singing. They were touring The Dark, and I want to say they were on a bill with Anthrax. It was Anthrax, Metal Church, and I want to say DRI, but it could have been only. Yeah. Was it DRI? Yeah,
no, it was. That came through Austin as well. Did you see it in Austin?
No, I saw it in San Antonio.
So DRI, Metal Church, and Anthrax played at the Austin City Coliseum.
Okay, I saw it at Sunken Garden.
Also Holy Ground, and Talk Louder people have heard me call that Holy Ground, and have also heard me say that now it is a grassy knoll.
Yeah. I saw that bill in San Antonio at the Sunken Gardens, and actually those Anthrax and Metal Church were doing an in-store, and I went to the in-store, and I pulled a poster off the outside of the building wherever they were doing the in-store, and I was going to use the back of the poster for the autographs. And so I went through the line, and the Anthrax guys signed first, and this is kind of funny. Scott Ian, of course, signs his name, Scott Ian, and then writes the big knot on it, right? And so then I go down the line a little further to the Metal Church guys, and one of the Metal Church guys puts an S in front of the knot, so now it says snot. And I
Right.
remember at the time I was so disappointed. I was like, "Oh my God, you ruined my Scott Ian autograph," And I was like, "Oh, whatever." And I probably still have it here somewhere, but it's from that tour that I was just mentioning. Well, cool. The Metal Church. There you go. To our
Yeah.
listener who suggested some Metal Church info, and I'm sure there'll be more in the future.
I have a quick shot of rock and roll for you. Just a
Oh,
quick one.
yes.
What is this happens to be just like something I'm throwing up here. What happens to be Metal Dave's favorite David Bowie song?
Oh my God, man.
Because that's what's cool about Talk Louder. We literally can talk about anything
Yeah.
music or entertainment related. So
Yeah.
give me a David Bowie.
Okay. So first of all, I'm going to confess that I don't have a lot of David Bowie albums. So that's obviously going to exclude the deep cuts, which is going to be the song that the David Bowie freak is looking for is one of the deep cuts that I'm unaware of, right? So
Right.
I have to say that up front. Based on the hits and the songs that I know, even that is like almost impossible. I've always loved Space Oddity.
Don't make yourself out to be super lame.
Yeah.
Just give us your best. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think? What's your favorite? What's the deepest cut you can think of?
Well, I don't even know. It's
Zero?
not deep cut, but
Nothing?
I was just going to paraphrase. I've always loved Space Oddity because I love the lyrics in that song. I thought it was really interesting that somebody was writing a song from that perspective at that time. And of course, it blended right in with the whole David Bowie persona. But
I think it's called Space Oddity.
yeah, isn't that what I
I
said?
thought you said Odyssey.
No, Space Oddity.
Man, I'm just giving you all kinds of shit. All right.
You asked the question and you won't let me answer. But here you go. I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to go with probably Suffragette City. I think that song is just a rocker, but David Bowie has so much great stuff. His voice is so elastic. He can do so many things with his voice, and so there's certain songs I like when he sings in that low register, and then there's songs that I like that he's just kind of rocking it out. And another one of my favorite songs by him is, believe it or not, I love "Let's Dance." Which was kind of a mid 80s period thing for him. And if I'm not mistaken, and our producer Jared could probably knows this off the top of his head, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say I believe that is the first time that Stevie Ray Vaughan was recorded on a major label, because he was the guitar player on that track, "Let's Dance," and maybe even the whole album.
I don't know what year Let's Dance record came out, but around here we already knew Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Sure, but
I don't know that he was a major. I don't know if he had a major recording. Stevie. I don't know if he had a major contract yet.
I don't think.
But I know that David Bowie used to, whenever he was in town, he would sneak out to the Continental Club, and that's kind of how he knows, like Charlie Sexton, and that's how he knows Stevie. So
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Suffragette City doesn't surprise me because it's kind of punk rock.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like sleaze rock, punk rock kind of a thing. It fits Metal Dave for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's an impossible question. I also love that song "Heroes," but to answer your question, if I can only pick one, I'm going with Suffragette City for all the things that you just said. It's kind of sleazy, it's kind of slinky, it's rocking, and it's just a great rock song. All right, let's wrap this one up. And we want to remind our listeners again, please send us your comments, suggestions, leave us comments on the Facebook, YouTube, etc. We do enjoy reading them. And as you can tell from today's show, we do use them from time to time. So we're always open to your ideas. With that, don't forget, hit that subscribe button on YouTube, follow our Facebook page, likes and comments, all that good stuff. We're also on Spotify and iTunes. With that, Metal Dave Glessner, along with my co-host Jason McMaster, signing off for another episode of the Talk Louder podcast.